Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise today to offer my amendment that redirects $5 million from government bureaucracy to hazardous fuels reductions activities within the Bureau of Land Management to prevent catastrophic wildfires and save lives. The year I was elected to office, Colorado suffered the worst fire season in Colorado history, with the 3 largest recorded wildfires we have ever had. Hundreds of homes were destroyed and evacuated as Coloradans endured more than 100 days of fire. The Cameron Peak Fire burned more than 208,000 acres and more than 460 structures to the tune of $6 million in property losses. The East Troublesome Fire on the border of my district killed 2 people. Coloradans also suffered severe health issues resulting from significant smoke from these fires. Wildfire smoke causes serious disorders, including eye and respiratory tract infections, reduction of lung function, bronchitis, exacerbation of asthma, and even premature death. Catastrophic wildfires also cause significant damage to the environment. A few years ago, NASA concluded that one catastrophic wildfire can emit more carbon emissions in just a few days than all the vehicle emissions in an entire state over the course of an entire year. Decades of mismanagement has left our nation's federal lands vulnerable to insects and disease and ripe for a catastrophic wildfire. The good news is there is finally significant bipartisan support throughout the country to prevent wildfires, and the Forest Service is seeking to treat 20 million acres of national forests and grasslands and 30 million acres of state, local, tribal, and private lands over the next 10 years. However, we need to do more, as federal agencies have stated that more than 1 billion acres throughout the country are currently at risk of catastrophic wildfires. Our federal lands are overgrown and poorly managed, making them more susceptible to wildfire disease and bark beetle attacks. There are federal lands in Colorado and in the West where we once had 50 to 100 trees per acre. But now we see 500 to 1,000 trees per acre. This is a massive overgrowth in our forests that we need to manage. There are also 6 billion standing dead trees in the western United States. Some people call that a problem. I call it a tinderbox waiting to ignite. Fuels treatments are effective, and federal agencies have made clear, and I quote, "Over 90% of fuel treatments are effective in changing fire behavior and/or helping with control of the wildfire," end quote. Let's put the lives of the American people first and take significant action to benefit our environment by passing my hazardous fuels reduction amendment. I urge my colleagues to support my common sense amendment, and with that, Mr. Chair, I reserve.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Maine seek recognition?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in opposition to this amendment.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you. Look, I want to be clear. I fully support hazardous fuels reductions activities at the BLM. I am so sorry for the wildfires that have occurred in Colorado and so many other states across our nation. And I come from the most forested state in the nation, the state of Maine. We know the importance of good forest management, and we know how important this is. But I absolutely do not support the offset. The EPA has already been cut by 39%, and further cuts to its core programs will only embolden polluters and weaken the safety of our water and air. We could easily fund both things, the EPA and forest management at the Forest Service, if the majority had produced their bills at levels that were agreed upon and passed into law in the Fiscal Responsibility Act. If my colleagues across the aisle are serious about managing hazardous fuels at BLM, it would have been fully funded in the base bill. I oppose this amendment, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentlelady from Colorado is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think that this is anything that is something that should be opposed. Redirecting $5 million from government bureaucracies to hazardous fuels reduction activities, this is very common sense. We are to be good stewards of our land, and part of that is being proactive rather than reactive. And again, I urge adoption of my amendment, and Mr. Chair, I yield.
The question is on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Colorado. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no.